Finally, I had the house to myself for the whole weekend. My parents were away on a trip, and my annoying little brother was at a sleepover camp. I relished the thought of 2 blissful days alone to just hang out and do my own thing without anyone nagging me. On the first night, I ordered a pizza and binged some shows, sprawled out on the couch in my pajamas. Around midnight, I took the dog out for one last walk before bed. The neighborhood was dead quiet. Not a single car or person around. Under the glow of the streetlights, our house looked peaceful and comforting. After locking up, I brushed my teeth and slipped under the covers, putting on some music. As I drifted off to sleep, I smiled thinking about having the whole next day free. No chores, no schedules, just me time. I woke up a few hours later to the dog growling low in his throat. His hackles were raised as he stared intently at my closed bedroom door. "What's up, boy?" "Do you hear something?" I whispered. His only response was another soft growl. I muted my music and strained to hear anything out of the ordinary. At first, nothing. Then a faint creak from somewhere inside the house. I froze, listening close. There it was again, the unmistakable sound of a footstep. Someone was in the house. My heart pounded as I scanned the room for any potential weapon. I settled on a baseball bat stashed in the corner. The dog's growl grew louder as I crept to the door and cracked it open. The hallway was empty, but there was a light on downstairs that I knew I hadn't left on. Tightening my grip on the bat, I slowly made my way toward the stairs. A shadow passed across the living room wall. Someone was definitely down there. The dog stayed by my side, fur bristling, as we descended the stairs together. At the bottom, I paused and listened. More footsteps, moving stealthily through the kitchen. An intruder for sure. I steeled my nerves and leapt into the room, bat raised and ready to swing. But the kitchen was empty. The footsteps had already moved elsewhere. Heart thundering, I swept each room on the first floor. No sign of an intruder, but they had clearly been here. Drawers hung open, belongings strewn, as if someone had been searching for something. The smart thing to do was run out the front door and call 911. But this was my house. I wasn't about to just let some criminal chase me into the night. With the dog at my heels, I continued the search. We cleared the downstairs and moved to the second floor. That's when I noticed the basement door was ajar. I knew I had shut it tightly earlier. Flicking on the light, I gripped the bat and moved slowly down the creaky wooden stairs. At the bottom, it was pitch black. I fumbled along the cold concrete wall, searching for the switch. Click. The single bulb offered barely enough light to see by. Long shadows swallowed the corners and reached across the floor. There was no one down here, but something felt off. I scanned the dusty shelves and storage boxes closely, and then I saw it. A foot protruding from behind a stack of plastic bins. Someone was hiding in the shadows. With all my strength, I swung the bat, hitting flesh with a sickening crack. A man cried out, collapsing forward into the light. I barely recognized the face of the neighbor before I was racing back upstairs, slamming the basement door shut and dialing 911. Within minutes, the police had arrived and arrested the intruder. Turned out he had broken in thinking the house was empty for the weekend. As they took him away, I shuddered, thinking about how things could have gone if the dog hadn't woken me up. This was definitely the last time I'd stay home alone. I woke with a start to the sound of a loud crash coming from downstairs. I lay frozen, heart pounding in my chest as I listened intently. Had I imagined it? The house stayed quiet, just the familiar ticks and creaks of the old wood settling. After a few minutes, I convinced myself it was nothing and started to relax. Probably just the cat knocking something over. I settled back under my covers, glad my parents were away this weekend so I could sleep in. This time, the noise was unmistakable. Someone was definitely moving around downstairs. I sat bolt upright, alarmed. We didn't have an alarm system. How could someone have gotten in? My hands shaking, I grabbed my phone to call 911. But when I tried to turn it on, nothing happened. Dead battery. No way to call for help. I crept to my door and cracked it open. Pitch black downstairs, but I could hear rummaging in the living room. I hesitated, unsure what to do. Maybe I could sneak out the back door unnoticed. I tiptoed down the hall towards the back staircase, trying to control my panicked breathing. But a floorboard creaked loudly under my foot, stopping me in my tracks. The rummaging sounds went silent. Heavy footsteps started up the front stairs. I turned and raced back to my room, shutting and locking the door behind me. My heart hammered as I frantically looked for somewhere to hide. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs and started slowly down the hall towards my room. I desperately squeezed under my bed just as the knob rattled violently. My whole body trembling, I watched the door shake on its hinges as the intruder tried to get in. After what seemed like an eternity, the rattling stopped. I heard their footsteps move away, checking the other rooms. I didn't dare move a muscle, praying they wouldn't find me. Suddenly, the intruder was back, right outside my room again. I could see their shadow in the sliver of light under the door. My breath caught in my throat. To my horror, a thin metal tool slid under the gap, and I heard the lock click open. The door creaked open and heavy boots stepped inside, moving toward the bed. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying not to make a sound. The footsteps stopped right next to me. I could see the intruder's thick-soled boots mere inches from my face. My whole body tensed, bracing for discovery. How could I escape now? After an agonizing moment, the intruder turned and walked away, their pacing steps fading down the hall. I finally breathed again, dizzy with relief. But I wasn't safe yet. I had to find a way out before they came back. Heart pounding, I slid out from under the bed and crept to the open door. Peering around the corner, I didn't see anyone. As stealthily as possible, I made my way downstairs and slipped out the back door into the night, running until I found help. I survived, but the shadowy intruder still haunts my nightmares. I had the house to myself for a few days while my family was away. I was looking forward to some alone time to catch up on my shows and just relax. Around 10 p.m. after watching a movie, I headed up to bed. As I was drifting off to sleep, a loud crash jolted me awake. It sounded like it came from downstairs. I sat bolt upright, heart pounding, straining to hear anything else. Had I imagined it? After a few silent minutes, I convinced myself it was just the house, settling or something falling over downstairs. But I still felt unsettled. I got up to double check all the doors were locked. That made me feel better, so I went back to bed. A little while later, I thought I heard footsteps downstairs. I froze. Listening closely, it sounded like someone was moving around down there, opening cupboards and shuffling around the living room. Oh God, I thought. Someone's broken in. My mind was racing about what to do. I crept to my bedroom door and slowly cracked it open to peek out. The hall light was on. I know I had turned it off. My heart dropped into my stomach. Someone was definitely in the house. I agonized over whether to make a run for it or barricade myself in my room. Before I could decide, the creaking footsteps started coming up the stairs, getting louder and closer. I shut off my light and pressed myself against the wall, trying not to make a sound as the intruder walked down the hall. My door flew open, casting light from the hallway over me. I held my breath, hoping the intruder didn't see me in the shadows. After what seemed like an eternity, the footsteps moved away towards the other bedrooms. Quietly as possible, I slid out into the hall, moving on autopilot to get outside. As I made my way down the stairs, the intruder voices drifted up from the kitchen, at least 2 men talking. I froze, but they hadn't heard me yet. This was my chance. I crept to the front door, turned the lock. Oh, so slowly, and let myself out. The cool night air washed over me as I sprinted down the driveway to a neighbor's house. I banged frantically on their door until a light came on. Later, the police swept the house and found no one. But I know what I heard. Some intruders broke in that night, looking for something. I still wonder sometimes if they'll come back to finish the job, and what might have happened if they'd caught me. Just thinking about it chills me to the bone.